welcome to the Workshop Therapy Podcast, Season 2, Episode 1.
I have no idea what we're talking about today. Just an FYI. No idea.
So if you can't tell, my favorite guest is here, and I figured it was appropriate to have her on as the first guest of the season, since she is my favorite guest. Everybody say hi to my wife. I don't know what we're actually talking about yet either.
Oh, good.
It's probably going to be a short episode today, just so everybody's aware, because number one, I am still suffering from the 100-day cough, apparently, hacking and coughing and all that jazz from before Christmas.
Yeah.
Which is kind of annoying. And pause to cough. And we're back. I just thought that maybe you and I have had a few momentous things occur in the last month. Maybe we could talk about a couple of the plans we have for the year as a beginning of the year sort of kickoff. But first and foremost, I wanted to ask you, why do you create?
For my mental health. And I'm not even joking.
That was very graceful of you. Since this is an audio podcast, I'll have to describe what just happened. My wife shifted around a little bit and ran her head into the music stand that was sitting beside her, and she enjoyed it great.
Yeah, loved it.
Anyway, so you create for your mental health. I've noticed you have been doing that and intentionally taking more time recently.
Yeah, I have been. It's been helpful.
What part of it is helpful for you?
I think it, for me, takes the chatter out of my head. I don't know for whatever reason, but for me, when I'm like drawing or painting, or it helps to calm that chatter down. And not everything does it. Like, I don't find that when I'm cooking, I'm still thinking about like a zillion other things that have to be done. But for some reason, I can zone in on that. It helps calm the
voices.
Yeah, basically, you're making me sound like a crazy person. But yeah, no, it helps to calm that down, and it helps to just, it's almost like a slow down and a reset. And I've been trying to like intentionally take time with our middle daughter, who really loves doing art as well, and doing art with her and showing her how to, number one, embrace mistakes and not be afraid to make them, and number two, just find that thing that you love and do it. And yeah,
something we've talked about a few times here is you're joining me on the Working Hands podcast Make What You Fear challenge. I'm going to attempt to do some power carving here.
I used those tools.
You did. I was impressed.
Yeah,
you actually used them before I did.
It's true. I'm just hoping I can get through the challenge without having like some sort of terrible allergy attack.
Yeah. Yeah. Should order new respirator cartridges for your dust mask. Actually, should probably just order a new dust mask because those ones are getting the elastics on them pretty shot.
Yep.
Anyway.
I was thinking also of getting one of those like hazmat suits that goes around your face, you know, like you're all encased in, so I'm not covered in dust. And you're laughing, but it's getting that bad for me. And so I think it's not a bad idea.
I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I was laughing because it's a good idea. We should order them on Amazon. But anyway, what I was going to say is I've been attempting to do a little bit more drawing recently as kind of a prep part.
Why do you say attempting? It's like you're apologizing.
Because it's not to the quality that I want it to be.
You're still drawing. You're not attempting and like not being successful at meeting the pencil and the paper together. You are drawing.
Okay, I'm poorly drawing and I'm hoping to get better at it. Okay, I'm drawing. I am practicing my drawing and improving my drawing skills.
Mm-hmm. Growth mindset. See? Change the narrative.
Yes. Growth mindset, changing the narrative. But anyway, something that I know previously, and I've been thinking about this since Mr. Argiano Serio's book exchange thing. The person who sent me my book was Stephanie from Uncommon Outpost, and she sent a video explaining why it was running so late. And in that, she called me an artist. And I've never ever viewed myself as an artist. And I'm curious how she defines an artist, for one. But for me, it's kind of inspired me a little bit to, maybe push my boundaries a little bit. And as I'm practicing drawing, I'm realizing that drawing isn't just it's not like a printer that's printing off the picture. It's layering different structures on top of each other, and as you draw that, you make mistakes and you erase them and you change them and you improve them, and as you work through that process, you come to your final product at the end, right? And so I think with the power carving thing that we're going to try for the Make What You Fear thing, I feel like there's a certain level that I want to get to, but because of my fear of failure, I guess, or my knowledge of my own lack of skill in that area, I know that I'm probably not going to be able to get to the image of what I have in my head, and then that stops me from actually doing the thing that I want to do. And so that as I'm watching you do your art therapy or your art self-therapy, I'm watching you kind of embracing the fact that
I'm not good at it.
No, you're fine at it. You're great. If I'm not allowed to say that I'm attempting to draw, you're not allowed to say that I'm not good at art or you're not good at art. Because, as I have said many times, if taping a banana to a wall is art, then...
Yeah, but then it makes me feel bad, like that I'm being compared to a banana on a wall.
I'm not comparing you to a banana on the wall. You're far superior to a banana on the wall. But that's my point, is you're definitely better than somebody taping... Well, you're at...
Our 2-year-old does more than a banana on the wall.
Our 2-year-old puts lots of crap on the wall. But anyway, so then I'm curious...
Have you seen her art behind the door?
In their bedroom?
Yeah. She keeps adding to it.
Oh, does she?
Mm-hmm.
Where does she find the pencil?
I have no idea where she finds the pencils, but she keeps adding to it. And my initial reaction was like, oh no, I need to erase it, and I need to show her that we have to erase it and we can't draw on the walls. And then we went to the Dr. Seuss thing, and one part of the exhibit was pictures of his bedroom and how his parents just let him draw all over the walls. And I was like, I mean, we can paint it. And she's just using pencil. It does actually just erase.
Yeah. And it's not like she's drawing everywhere in the house either. She's got like this little corner.
No, she's got this corner behind her door and like between the door and the dresser. This little area that she...
Yeah, you can't actually see unless you're looking at it.
You have to be in the room with the door closed to see it. Yeah. But, yeah, and so I'm not erasing it. I'm not getting mad at her for it. That's a conscious choice on my part. And also because I think I know I was the same way. I drew on stuff, but I got in trouble for it, and I stopped drawing. Not like then, but I can see now where that impacted me, right? Like, I stopped drawing things that were popping into my head because I just had to get them out. And yeah, so trying to change that for our kids.
Well, and there's that, the saying, it takes 10,000 hours to mastery. You ever heard that?
No.
Oh, it's a coaching thing. Is some famous sports coach of
yes, I constantly frequent for famous sports quotes.
Well, coach, not quotes.
Oh.
He probably played sportsball or something like that. I
have no idea. Don't ask me those questions.
But anyway.
It makes me look very not smart when you ask me those questions.
Well, I can't remember what he coached anyway. Anyway, his thing was it takes 10,000 hours to master something. And I've run across that a few times with different people interpreting it. But I remember one person said that's baloney. It's not actually true. And then he used a quote from what's his name, Steve Jobs, who talked about having ideas, and he talked about how you have to have 1,000 ideas to have one good idea. But the real trick there is not having the 1,000 ideas. It's saying no to the 1,000 ideas so you have the time and the resources to get to the one good idea. And so I'm thinking, I think like with art, if you only draw the perfect drawing, you're never going to draw anything, because your initial idea or your initial picture is not going to be what you imagine, because you just don't have the motor skills, you don't have the ability. But as you make those 10,000 mistakes, or the 1,000 mistakes, and say no to those and keep progressing, eventually you'll get to that one great one. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I think the whole the say no to it makes me uncomfortable. I would have to be embrace the mistakes or something. But the say no is oh no, I was terrible. I should never do this again. But I know what you mean, and you're right. But it's kind of like that. What we were talking about this morning, the aggregation of marginal gains, right? That you just need to keep just trying it again, doing it again. And that's what I mean by working with our middle child, who is not unlike our older child and does not like to get things wrong. just, encouraging that it's okay that you made a mistake, and it's okay to look at it and be like, oh, I want to change that for next time, but not hate it and crumple it up and throw it in the garbage and stamp on it.
And never do it again because
Never
you
do it
failed
again
on that
because
one.
obviously you can't do it, right? So there's a lot to be learned in that process. And I think like for me with that, like you're asking about why I've been doing it more, partly I have been working on that art therapy course, which has helped me to see it more. And we've been processing some big things in our family in the last few days, really. I mean, it's been a while in coming, but like some big things to process. And I feel like for me, art is a way that I process, and hasn't been for a long time. I was thinking about it today, actually, when we were in the car. I was thinking, well, I didn't like draw so much once I went to university, but if you had looked at any page of my notes for any class, there would not be one single page that didn't have drawings all over it.
Didn't have a bunch of doodles on it.
Like tons. I would never have been a good note taker on the computer because I needed those drawings. And for me, that's how I cement information. And when I'm going back through, like in a test situation, I can go through it back through and know my page by the pictures. Like I close my eyes and I see them in my head. That's how I know where it is and can pull information. And so I was like, oh, I haven't drawn. But then as I'm going through my head, I'm like, no, it's been like the last few years when I've been just home with the kids, I haven't drawn. But even when I was teaching, I was constantly drawing for stuff. And so as I'm getting back into that, but doing it in an intentional way, I'm noticing it differently.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about the reasons behind why we create things in general. Like whether it's art or whether it's woodworking or metalworking or whatever your particular creative outlet is. And I wonder if it's a need for everybody to have some sort of creative outlet in some way.
I think you do. I think you need... I think your mental, that side of things needs that. And I think that's something that we've lost in today's society. And I think that's why you're seeing lots of people struggle, is because lots of people don't have that. And with something else that we were talking about is that's been lost in schools and in our education system and in homes, even, because you don't make things to make your house beautiful, you buy them.
Because
that
you
disconnect really is disconnecting. And was it last night or the night before? Our middle daughter, again, our youngest daughter too, they're obsessed with fairies, right? Like obsessed with them. And she's quite convinced, I may have played into this.
May have.
It might be my problem, but she thinks she's part fairy.
Yes. She may have played into that by saying, I'm part fairy, so that makes you part fairy too.
It's true.
So there may have been possibility of...
I'm just passing on generational trauma. But no, so anyway, she's obsessed with fairies, blah, blah, blah. She finds things and she's always constantly wanting the fairies to do things, right? And usually around holidays, we try, and I like to have those little magical things. So what did she do for the fairies?
I don't even know. All I know
Oh, it was that she set up that campfire, the camp stuff. She made a little tent and set out the blankets and stuff in front of the fireplace for the fairies.
That was all about?
Yeah, that was for the fairies.
Oh.
To welcome them back to our home, because it was getting nice out, so it was spring, and she wanted to make sure the fairies knew that she was welcoming them back. So that night I was like, oh, I've got to do something for these fairies, and I don't know what to do. And then I had put out, because the day before I'd put out like some little wooden bunnies that I'd found, and she thought the fairies had put them out. And so then she'd built the thing to welcome the fairies back. That's how it all came about. Anyway, so I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I was like, I could get stuck in this, or I could go to my craft room, cut up some fabric, make some hearts, string it on a piece of ribbon and tie it to the mantelpiece, and oh look, the fairies have been here. And it wasn't a big thing, but she was absolutely like
thrilled to
pieces by it, right? Like, and I've that's something that we've talked about. Like, I feel like I'm getting better at not getting stuck in the process, or stuck in it needs to be perfect and it needs to be this big thing. I feel like I'm getting better at being like, yeah, let's just put something out there. Yeah. So I don't know.
So what are your creative goals for this year then?
Well, I have a couple of books I need to finish and get out. Some more in my head to start.
Which theoretically I will be helping with one of them anyway.
Theoretically you will be helping with one of them, yes.
I've been working on the character illustrations.
I know. And I'm really torn because I've written the book and I like the book, but the main character is Spartan, except that it's our daughter can't say it, and our little one, and she calls it Fartin. And so I'm half tempted to actually just name it Fartin, because it's really a book for her about Fartin, not Spartan. So I don't know like which one to like. Yeah. Anyway.
That's true, and to kind of put this Spartan Fartin into context.
She can't say Spartan.
She can't say Spartan, yes, but Spartan is my brother's dog, and
Yes.
when we were visiting my brother, our daughter and this dog just got along famously. They had a grand old time playing in the yard and
digging holes together.
digging holes in the dirt and all that jazz. But she just kept calling him Fartin, and so we ended up. My wife ended up writing the story of Spartan and Spartan or Fartin. So maybe maybe
Spartan or Fartin. I think we have to go with Spartan or with Fartin.
Do we?
Or I need to make some part about it about what, like, or something in the front that says it's like dedicated to Spartan, or to Nora's Fartin.
To Nora's Fartin.
To Nora's Fartin.
So there's the
anyway
on Spotify there's a poll feature. So I'm going to put on Spotify there'll be a poll there. Should we call the character Fartin or Spartan? And
okay, so back to your goal about like creative goals for the day, back to your point about goals for creative. I've actually been thinking about this because when I was doing New Year's resolutions and stuff, I was like, oh, I need to make a resolution to paint something every day, because there's all those people, like do a little grid and do painting every day. I can't do that because if I miss a day, I am sunk.
Yep.
And it's true.
It's true because
it's
the perfectionist
100%. Like I can't.
Will fall apart if
I will fall apart. I will just, and I'll beat myself up for days about it. And so that's not worth it to me. So I have a goal of increasing, of doing a little bit and trying to do a little bit daily, but not being upset at myself. And so like part of my goal is to not be upset if I don't, which sounds counterintuitive, but I don't think it actually is.
No.
So
that's a good goal.
That's my goal, and to not let my lack of the perfect tools stop me from trying, because I can't afford the best brushes or paints or markers or anything like that. And so I'm just working with what I have and going from there.
Good. Sounds like a great goal.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then just a little bit of playing the hand we've been dealt and trying to figure our way through some heavy stuff.
Yeah. So some of you are aware of we've been trying to diagnose or trying to figure out some issues that our son is having and
has been having for a long time.
Has been having for a while, and most of you know we've talked about homeschooling and stuff before, and the reason that we are homeschooling is because of his educational challenges, and we finally got. Do we share? Or is this a personal thing?
I mean, we don't have to say like everything, but we finally got a diagnosis.
Yeah.
A few diagnoses.
A couple I mean
4.
Yeah, 4.
It's not like.
Yeah. I mean. I don't know. It's okay to say. It's okay to say.
I think it's okay. I'm not embarrassed about it. I don't want him to be embarrassed about it ever.
That's a good point. So he's a little bit on the autistic spectrum, and he has ADHD, but it's an inattentive ADHD, so he doesn't have the hyperactivity.
I don't think we should say like a little bit on the autistic spectrum. I think that's like he's autistic.
Well, he's on the autistic spectrum.
Yes.
Whatever she said, grade 1.
He's level 1, but
level
needing
1.
supports in both domains. It's not.
Yeah, so he's on the autistic spectrum, and some ADHD. So he's neurodivergent, to use that term, which I don't particularly care for that term personally.
Let's go with neurospicy.
Neurospicy. But the reason I don't like that term, and we've talked about this before, is because everybody's on a spectrum. Mm-hmm. And so to say he's neurodivergent is kind of a meaningless thing to say.
Yeah.
He thinks things in a certain way that's not what average is. Mm-hmm. But we're all not average in our own ways. So anyway, so we're now processing that, and we're...
And like by now processing, we just found out this week.
Yeah, Monday.
Like Monday. So it's been a few days. Not to think like that we didn't know. And he's got 2 other learning codes to do with difficulties in his schoolwork that I knew, but it's good to have that paperwork and to hopefully get some supports. And that was our big reason for doing it, was to get him the supports that
we can't necessarily provide
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. I mean, we do our best, and I really try, and I know you try. Like, we try to read up on things, and we try to get the best practice going for him, and to find the best resources, and to find the best, like I try and pick curriculum that is going to work for him and be successful. But all of that is exhausting.
Yep.
And I think this week, finding out, I've finally been able to give myself grace in everything that's been going on for the last few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've been, it's an interesting time. And then on top of that, I mean, the signs are going to be up pretty soon. People are going to start noticing, but
we have to make some changes.
We have to make some changes because of your allergies, for one.
Allergies are really bad.
But also, we don't love where we live.
Nothing against it. It just isn't our cup of tea.
Well, nobody that we know who lives here listens to this podcast that I'm aware of. But if they do, it's nothing against it. It's just
we both grew up out of town. We both grew up with trees, and we want our kids to have that.
Yeah. And so that's my creative goal for the year, is to build a house.
Fun.
But and so we're currently in the midst of, I just met with a real estate agent to put my shop on the market. And now we got to decide what we're going to do with the house, whether we're going to sell it or rent it out.
It's a lot of like heavy, overwhelming things. Like, we've got that. We just had his diagnosis. We have a big meeting with his urologist coming up. There's a lot of like uncertainty, and that's probably, and where I'm grateful that I have been doing that art, because I need that right now.
Yeah.
Because it's 2024 is starting off with a
bang.
Yeah, there's been a lot.
Hopefully it accelerates through the year, and every month is more successful than the last.
And I think like something that we've talked a lot about too is if we're not progressing forward, we're going backwards.
Yeah, there's a
and with you having to change your career and all of that stuff, it's put us in a place that we were not expecting at this point in our life.
Not at all.
At all. And again, dealing with our son and dealing with just everything, it changes your trajectory, and that's probably our year. This year is going to be change. That should be our word.
Yeah, it's going to be change.
I don't think we're going to have to put 30,000 kilometers on the trailer this year.
I don't think we're doing a massive road trip this year. Might
I
put
really want to go to
on
the
a
ocean,
going
though.
Back and forth and all that, but yeah.
I might have to try and sneak in an ocean visit.
Sneak in a west coast visit. Mm-hmm. Maybe actually we should try to get down to like Washington and Oregon, visit some people there.
I was going to go to the island, visit people there too.
Do a little bit of the west coast, but we'll see.
We'll see what we actually can do. I don't know. Again, lots to navigate, and if everything goes to plan, lots to navigate.
Yeah, if everything goes to plan, we're going to have a pretty revolutionary year ahead of us. Mm-hmm. And if everything doesn't go to plan, we're going to have an even more revolutionary year ahead of us.
And probably require a lot more counseling.
Probably a lot more therapy.
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of therapy, check out the BetterHelp link in the description.
Because they really are helpful.
It has really been helpful.
I really appreciate it. For busy parents, it's amazing because you do it from home. We don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. We don't have to panic if they're not having a great day. That's been really good.
Yeah, it works because you can get into your you can get something that works for your schedule, mm-hmm. and your schedule doesn't have to involve a half-hour drive to an office. It can just be a quiet space in your house or sit in your truck or car or whatever works for you.
It's been good.
Yeah.
And that has been really instrumental in me changing some pretty detrimental patterns.
Yep. Yeah. So that was longer than I intended to talk, but
rambly. And
Hopefully,
probably not that clear of what's actually happening. So, stay tuned for more.
Stay tuned for more.
Updates to come as things.
Yeah. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions, critiques, whatever, send them to questions@workshoptherapypodcast.com. And, or if you have any suggestions for guests, or if you have any topics that you want covered, any research questions that you're interested in, I'm happy to look up that type of stuff and share the information with everybody. If you want to know more about helping dealing with autism and ADHD, those types of things. We're not experts in it yet, but
working hard to become such.
My wife has been looking at master's programs in those areas, so encourage her and tell her that she should, instead of constantly not thinking that she's capable of doing it. And thank you for listening. I want to say thank you to the founding fathers of the Workshop Therapy Podcast. The OG founding father, Mr. Argiano Serio, Just Brad of Brad's Customs, Mr. Keith Drennan of Blackthorn Concepts, Mr. Brandon Millichamp of Tectonic Creations, and the Grant Alexander. I want to say a special thank you to those 5 as the original founding patron members. Their support started this podcast and provided the needed drive to help share the important message of Maker Mental Health. If you found value in this podcast, I'd invite you to head over to Patreon and support there to help us continue to bring content and hopefully improve and bring more valuable content to you in the future. Thank you.